is Alex Brown from the OST office, the Office of Out of School Time Grants and Youth Outcomes, located in the office of the Deputy Mayor for Education's office. Frequently, you will also hear us call ourselves Learn24, and that is just our public-facing name. So that way it is a little bit more recognizable and a little bit more easy to say. For those who are just joining, if you could just please enter your name and organization into the chat box. This is an optional a meeting. This is not a mandatory meeting, but this information that you provide helps us to know who all attended, as well as know all of who all is in the chat among your colleagues as well. My colleagues today from the OST office are Deborah Eichenbaum, the grants management specialist with the OST office, and then also Kevin Cataldo, the manager for the Institute for Youth Development. It is possible our data analyst, Tristan Kirkman, will be joining us, but it is possible he might be in the process of doing something else as well. So before we get started, thank you all for joining us today. For those who are not aware, the Office of Out of School Time Grants and Youth Outcomes has been providing grant funding to organizations since 2017, in which we were commissioned to distribute funds as well as provide training opportunities for youth serving organizations in the district. Starting October 1, the Office of Out of School Time Grants and Youth Outcomes has begun. We are no longer utilizing grants management, a grant making partner. I'm sorry. We have taken grants on in-house and completely in-house, and we will be doing the entire process from start to finish. So this is a new opportunity for us, a new challenge for us, but it also will bring new rewards as well. So we're extremely excited about this opportunity, and we look forward to engaging with organizations in a different manner, but also looking to enhance the quality of which we are providing organizations with. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Deborah Eichenbaum, and she will begin.
Good morning, everyone. This is Deborah Eichenbaum, as I've said before, and thank you so much, Alex, for introducing and framing. This is the 2021 Summer Strong DC Small Nonprofit Request for Application Grant Information Session. We have 3 grant application requests for applications currently available. They were all made available on October 30th, and they are all due the same day, December 7th. Organizations can apply for more than one, but will not be granted more than one grant for this summer. And the 3 are the Summer Strong DC, this one, which obviously I'm going to go into in depth, the small nonprofit, and the 3rd is the coordinating entity. The coordinating entity are for organizations that provide services at DC Housing Authority locations and for youth residing, with DHS at their short-term family housing locations. So I'm going to jump in. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box. I will stop along the way to answer questions, but just know that it's possible that I answer the question you're about to ask later in the slide deck. So if you haven't heard anything yet about, amount of funding or whatever it might be, or the reviewer process, if you also want to hold that question until the end, we will also give time at the end. So however you want to do it, feel free. Okay, so the funding for FY21 Summer Strong Small Nonprofit will be made available through my office, the Office of Out of School Time Grants and Youth Outcomes, and we are located in the office of the Deputy Mayor for Education. Grant awards are contingent upon the availability of funds. That is incorrect, and it should say the 2021 So we'll correct that. But the 2021 Summer Strong Small Nonprofit RFA invites high-performing, fiscally responsible nonprofits that focus on youth development and serve school-age children and youth with summer programs to apply. Organizations applying must serve youth through a positive youth development approach. Summer grants support specific program sites and slots, and summer programming is defined as a structured, supervised learning or youth development opportunity offered to a distinct group of district children and youth during the summer months for a minimum of 5 hours per day, 5 days a week, for 5 consecutive weeks. Oh, and that's also incorrect. Sorry, but it is not United Way. It is the OST office that anticipates awarding a total of up to $125,000. My apologies for the second error of the morning, but that will be changed to the OST office anticipates awarding a total of up to $125,000 and up to $25,000 per grantee. The OST office maintains the right to adjust the grant amounts, the grant awards, and again, those awards are contingent upon the availability of funding. Next slide, Alex. Thanks. So youth development outcomes. The intent of this grant is to support high quality summer programs that offer educational, social, emotional, and physical health opportunities and activities for youth throughout the district. That is the third error of the morning. Okay. My apologies again. The OST office is seeking to fund youth serving organizations that provide intentional opportunities and help youth reach developmental outcomes and have meaningful roles in their community. The results of programs and supports that are designed to engage youth to meet their developmental needs are, that is, youth development outcomes. These outcomes are the feelings, perceptions, behaviors, and abilities that youth develop in an environment that uses an asset-based approach and positive youth development. Outcomes themselves are the knowledge, skills, attributes, abilities, and behaviors that youth need to be healthy, caring, and responsible as they transition to adulthood. Grants will be awarded to organizations serving school-age youth. The preference is that applicants serve youth who are most in need or at risk. At risk is defined as being a is defined as being either a DCPS student or a public charter school student that is identified as one or more of these, either homeless, in the district's foster care system, the family qualifies for TANF or SNAP, temporary assistance for needy families, or SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or is a high school student that is 1 year or more behind in the grade they should be. Camp programming and dosage. This grant period will run from May 1st through August 27th. Programming must take place between June 14th and August 27th. Programs must offer services for a minimum, as I've said before, of 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 5 consecutive weeks. These are not meant to be 1 week programs. These are meant for full 5 weeks and servicing the same youth unduplicated youth over that period of time. That does not mean that the same youth need to attend all 5 weeks. It is always preferable to have good retention policies, but that does not mean that they absolutely need to be there for the entire 5 weeks. But we do ask that you serve a minimum of 15 unduplicated youth by the end of the grant period. And you must maintain an adult-to-child ratio of 1 to 15 for any youth under the age of 17, unless a lower ratio is required, such as it is right now during the time of COVID. The other thing is that you really cannot expect to do recruitment during the program period since it is so short during summer. And so we ask that you do a robust recruitment beforehand and make sure that your numbers are where they should be, expecting probably some attrition. Because the numbers of youth that you serve does go towards your good standing for future grant cycles. Program locations, since grants are programmatic and site specific, we ask that you identify your program locations on the cover sheet, which we're going to get to later. If you are suggesting a DCPS location, the organization should have worked at that location previously, especially since this summer schools really right now they can't commit to whether they will be providing services in person at schools. So we can't expect any of the DCPS schools to start with new programs. Programming may occur at any accessible and safe location in the district or outside the district. And the only requirement is that you serve district youth, but you can serve those youth at a site outside of the district. I think now is a good time to stop. Alex, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Give me 1 second to check and see.
Absolutely.
No, we currently do not have any questions in the chat box.
Okay.
But if anybody does have any questions or concerns, please feel free to pose a question either in the chat box or in the question and answer. And as I just said that, Deborah, we do have one question that came.
No problem.
I'd like to know the stance on virtual programming.
Well, as you'll see later on, we ask for you to describe in the narrative how you plan on programming. We are hoping that programming will be in person because we know that that's obviously more beneficial to our youth. But they do need the social emotional learning and connection with their connection with an adult. So we're going to ask that in the narrative you provide virtual, hybrid, or in-person options and how you plan on providing your program. All right.
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
So the grant mentions that additional credit will be awarded to applicants or applications that show they're giving extra dosage or service to youth. I think that's a statement, but yeah.
So I don't believe it says that they will receive extra credit or extra points anywhere. I believe it says they may, but not that they will.
Okay. And then the next question is, will participants receive the slide deck and a recording of the presentation? And I'll answer that one now. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say yes. Participants. The actual slide deck will also be posted on the website. The slide deck and this recording will be posted on the website not too much longer after, the conclusion of this session. So maybe by either today or tomorrow, close of business. That way we give it an opportune time to load and everything. But it will be available on the Learn24 website under service providers, funding opportunities, and then under today's date for the grant information session. And then we have a clarification on that. So last year we offered a 6-week program at 6 hours per day and could not see in the feedback where any additional credit was given to our application. Please provide an example and if the reviewer should note any additional credit given.
So in the, excuse me. What organizations should do is look at the rubric for how scoring is done. And I will get to that shortly, but I believe that's a specific question to a specific question in the rubric. And I don't have that up. So if you give me a minute, I will look for that. Okay. So in the rubric, there is no question in there that will have an organization receive additional points or even a number 4. There is no place for additional points for providing longer hours. It is possible that the organization will score highly because of different factors that the reviewer would see, but there is no requirement for that. I believe that what the person may be talking about is in the coordinating entity application, which this is not, that talks about additional hours for summer camps, but that is for housing authority and youth at short-term housing sites. It is not for the small nonprofit application. Alex, is there another question? No? All right, well, why don't we go on with eligibility and requirements?
Real quick, Deborah, sorry. Somebody said that they're not seeing the chat feed. One of the reasons that you're not seeing some of the chat feed is because sometimes individuals actually submit their questions directly to either the host or the entire panelist group, as opposed to submitting it for everyone. Individuals have that opportunity. Sometimes they are asking a direct question to the host and do not want everybody to feel everybody see the question. So sometimes I'm literally just going to read it as if I'm trying to read it so that everybody can hear it, but also trying to protect the organization or the person's identity in the event that they did not submit it to the entire group. So that's a possibility.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, so organizational requirements. Organizations, as I said before, will only be able to receive one grant this summer. Organizations must be 501c3s, operating for a minimum of 2 years, but the 501c3 status does not need to be 2 years. The status of the 501c3 only needs to be 1 year. And I'll go into those dates in a little bit. Fiscal sponsors are not eligible to apply. Organizations must be incorporated and registered to operate in the District of Columbia. And in order to apply for the small nonprofit application for this grant, you must have an organizational budget of $250,000 or less. It is best practice that organizations have an overall operating expense of no more than 30% of their total annual organizational budget. For operations, all applicants must be in good standing with the IRS, and you will show that by providing 2 years of the 990 filings. And you must be in good standing with the district, and organizations will show that by submitting an Office of Tax and Revenue Clean Hands certificate, the DCRA certificate of good standing, and a basic business license. Please apply early for the Clean Hands in good standing if you don't already have one, because during the time of COVID, things can take a little bit longer. Do not wait for the last minute to try and get that, as you normally have been able to get some of those documents within a day. Give it more time during COVID. If the applicant is a prior Learn24 grantee, the applicant must be in compliance with all prior grant agreements. Grant fund limitations. Grant funds may only be used to support youth with a primary residence within the District of Columbia. So as I said earlier, you can program outside of DC, but it must be for DC youth. A minimum of 80% of the grant funds must be applied to direct program costs. That's things such as program staff salary and benefits, program supplies and materials, curricula, program evaluation, or field trips, if in fact we're able to have field trips. Not more than 20% of the grant funds may be used for general operating costs, overhead or indirect costs. Those are costs that cannot be tied directly to programming, such as audits, management salary, administrative salaries, rent, or grant writing. So for a full list of grant fund limitations, please read the request for applications. It is a somewhat extensive list, but nothing that doesn't make sense when you look through it. If you have specific questions about any of those, you can always ask them you can ask them at any time, and I'll go into questions and answers in a little bit. But grant funds may not be used in conjunction with other District of Columbia government grants, such as the Department of Employment Services or summer youth employment programs to serve the same program and the same youth. You can still use summer youth employment youth, but you cannot then, if you're using them, you cannot count them in your program. Summer youth, as I say, can be additional staff support. So let's stop right here for another second. Alex, any other questions so far?
No additional questions currently. I do want to clear up something that I just was notified from. It does appear that some attendees or most attendees have only the option to submit questions directly to the host or the panelists. So that is why some people have not seen the additional questions that as they have been coming in. So I do apologize for that misspeak. Question.
It is definitely, as we're all learning during this time of coronavirus and all of the Zoom and the WebEx and everything else that we're doing, we all experience challenges every now and then, and apparently we're experiencing one right now. Jeez.
Yeah. So I do have a quick question. If we're hosting the summer program at our site, can we charge that 5 weeks of rent?
Yes, because that's program rent. That's not administrative rent. Yes. So let's go on. Oh.
Sorry. And then additional question: is there any way for an attendee to see what other organizations are on the call?
I definitely do not have that level of technical skill. I apologize in advance.
Okay, I got it. This one. Give me I'll let you go through the scoring rubric, and then I'll actually have a response in a while. I'll try to think of something.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. Then before we go, one more time, can organizations partner to meet the program requirement for 5 days a week, 5 hours a day for 5 weeks?
So an organization can partner, but in the request for applications under grant fund limitations, you cannot re-grant or sub-grant. And if you are subcontracting, you have to be the primary. Each organization that is applying has to be the primary organization that provides programming. You can subcontract, but not more than 40%. All right, so small nonprofit applications will be scored on a 36-point scale. Program history and staff experience for 12 points, program description and success for 16 points, and budget for 8 points. The scoring rubric consists of 4 sections, and those go from 1 point to 4 points. Check boxes are listed under each description, and the applicants will receive completed score sheets with comments at the end, and I will explain further of what reviewers see and what they receive in just a minute. But I just want to talk a little bit more about the narrative itself. The narrative that applicants will submit is, I'm just double checking 1 second. I believe, yes, it is a 6-page maximum. And the budget is a part of that narrative. It is not a separate section. We ask that you explain the systems in place to manage and comply with grant requirements, including tracking grant expenditures, that you provide detailed and clear program and organizational budgets that describe the expenses and revenue with accurate math. So why do I stress that? Because if you have inaccurate math and your grant reviewer finds it, that is not going to look good for the organization. So please double check your math and make sure that you have a clear program budget. Sometimes organizations submit without showing what your program budget is, just what your organizational budget is. But we do need to see how you plan on spending the funds for this summer program. And detail any sources of other funding that you have, if those are secured or pending, and provide all necessary documentation, and describe how the organization will continue to program even if you are not funded. For supportive evidence, specific information and results based on evidence should be included in the application. This application is an opportunity to show the reviewer the effectiveness of the program. The strongest applications include details on how evidence is collected, the data itself, program changes that have been made based on the data, and information on how that affects the outcomes. So what we always tell grant applicants is this is an opportunity for you to highlight your program and to explain to a reviewer who does not know your program who you are and what you do. So we always ask that you have someone else who is not a part of your program read through your application. It is a great way to make sure that a reviewer understands who you are and what you do. The reason is that you're so involved in your organizations that it's hard for you to look at it in a lens always from someone who doesn't know and really needs to be walked through and shown the great work that you all are doing every day. So logic models are going to be required for this application. And if you do not have one, Learn24 is hosting a logic model workshop on November 16th from 2 to 3. Also, questions can be submitted at any time and will be answered. But if you want them published, then please submit your question to RFA Summer 2021 at dc.gov by November 13th. And they will be published the next week, November 20th. Okay, the required documents, as I said earlier, you will need the 501c3 nonprofit organization information, and that must be dated December 7th, 2019 or earlier. So December 7th is the date that the applications are due. So you will need to have been a nonprofit organization for at least 1 year before that date. The same thing with your certificate of incorporation. Please make sure that these dates are correct. If they are after that date, then you are not eligible to apply for this grant. The Clean Hands certificate must be dated December 17th, 2019 or later. So sometime within the last year. It can be, a week, it can be 3 days, whenever it is, that's fine, but not before December 7th, 2019. Same thing with the certificate of good standing. That has to be valid through August 27th, 2021. If it's valid through April right now, 2021, that's fine. You do not need to get a new certificate of good standing. If you are granted, we expect that you will renew your certificate of good standing. And the same thing with the basic business license. It needs to be valid through or renewed to be valid through August 27th, 2021. You do not need to go out and get a new one as long as it is current when you send it in. Continuing on with required documentation, you will need to provide 1 year of the most recently completed income statement and balance sheets. And if you have an audit, financial review, or letter of engagement, you can submit that, but you do not need to go out and get one, only if you already have one. 2 years of the 990s, and then the cover sheet with program locations listed. The narrative, which I said before, is 6 pages, including your budget narrative. But the budgets themselves can be separate documents, and that can be in any form you want. Then the certification and assurances, the logic model or theory of change, and a summer syllabus. I think right now is probably a good time to see if there's any other questions.
Yes, I have a question for you. Are 990N postcards acceptable for 990 filing for organizations with gross receipts less than 50,000?
Yes, it says right there on the page, just right there, 990 ends, pages 1 through 6. Yeah, those are fine.
And then I think I might have a solution to organizations listing all the organizations. So just stay with me on if you're on the call as I think through this out loud. So if you are an organization, but you do, and you're listed on this call, it's a small group, it's a small nonprofit group, but you do not want your name shared with everybody, please feel free to send me a direct message, and I won't share your name. Elsewise, I will share the name and the organization names of everybody that's on today's call in the chat, but I won't include the names of people or organizations that have said that they do not want to be included, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Deborah?
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to application submission. Applications and attachments must be submitted by 5 o'clock on Monday, December 7th, 2020. Applications received after the deadline will not be reviewed. You will receive a confirmation email when you submit. If you do not have a confirmation email, your application will not be reviewed. Incomplete applications will not be accepted, and they can't be faxed or brought in person. No extensions will be granted for missing documents. And again, the deadline, December 7th, 2020 at 5 o'clock. And you will receive a confirmation email when you have successfully submitted your application. So make sure you receive that email. And if not, contact Learn24 at dc.gov. The review process. Each application will be reviewed by a panel of reviewers. The role of the panelist is to review and score an application's content according to the established review criteria using the attached rubric. The panelist will provide a consensus score that's used by the district to make final award determination. The district may provide additional preferences and priorities in order to make final award decisions. All reviewers are trained in the use of the rubric for consistency, and all reviewers are screened for conflict of interest. We also ask, and we think it is a fantastic opportunity, that everyone on this call at least considers being a reviewer yourself. As I said earlier, we have 3 competitions that are running simultaneously. You would not be able to review for the grant competition that you submit an application for, but you would be able to review for any other grant competition. So the reviewer list is currently out. If you are interested and haven't seen that in the newsletter, if you're interested in being a reviewer, please contact Learn24. We are happy to send that to you because it's a really great way to understand more about the process, to see other applications, and we think it is a great way to learn and grow in this field. Notification of awards. All applicants will be notified by email about the status of the awards by March 2021. Applicants will receive reviewer score sheets in March, and any application that scores 50% or less than the overall points available will not be eligible for funding. All funding decisions are final and are not subject to review, appeal, or protest. For application tips, please make sure that your application follows the order in the RFA. We ask that you, when you're writing, you have the rubric sitting next to what you're writing, so that you can see exactly what the reviewers are going to see. The reviewers are not looking at the narrative questions. They're looking at the rubric and scoring from that. So make sure that you look at both as you're writing your answers and your narrative. Do not submit documents or materials that are not requested, such as photos. They're not going to be reviewed, or program curriculum. The budget narrative should be detailed, show all your math, and base that on each line item in the budget. And avoid general language. Be detailed and specific, especially when you're talking about your connection to the community and the community support for your program activities and schedules, how you incorporate youth voice, and how you tap other revenue streams for your program. Alex, I'm just going to stop right there. Any other questions?
Yeah, two questions. So the first question is, what are the insurance requirements?
So the insurance requirements are listed in the RFA in detail. Those insurance requirements will be reviewed by the Office of Risk Management to ensure that the grantee is compliant with what the Office of Risk Management requires.
And then the district may provide additional preferences and priorities in order to make final award decisions. Please explain / provide an example, please.
So it has not happened often, but it has happened that in the past that there might be a requirement from the district that we focus, for example, with additional dollars being and grants going towards certain wards. That could be what happens. As I said, it has not happened often, but it has happened.
Okay, that's it currently.
Okay. So grantee requirements, if a grantee is awarded, if an organization, is awarded a grant, the grantee will be required to attend grantee meetings and activities, participate in research and evaluation activities, comply with the insurance requirements, participate in administrative and programmatic site visits, ensure that all staff, volunteers, and contractors acquire the required clearances, utilize the district's database, Learn24 database, also known as CitySpan, provide programmatic updates, and provide financial documentation. Important dates. On October 30th, the RFA was released. Today is the grant information session. The logic model workshop is November 16th. Questions to be submitted by November 13th. Answers to be published by November 20th. And completed applications due December 7th by 5 o'clock. If additional questions are required to the applicants, those will be asked by January, and awards will be announced in March of 2021. And that is all that we have. If you have any questions, feel free to contact learn24@dc.gov. And as I said, questions will be answered at any time, even if it's past the date of the question and answer period. Alex, did you get an answer yet for being able or a way to put the names in the chat box?
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of putting the names in the chat box right now. So, but once again, if your organization does not want your name submitted or this list, or does not want your name included in this list of names, please feel free to just send me a private message. We won't include you. But other than that, I'm going to put the names of the organizations that have attended today. And literally just the names of the organizations, not contact information, not point of contact or anything, just the name of the organization in the chat box. So give me 1 second.
And if there's any other questions, Alex, let me know. And is there anybody on the phone that we should see if they have any questions for?
Let's check. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I know you're doing a lot. So we ended early. So if you have additional questions, feel free to ask them. Or if you want to wait for Alex to get that in the chat box, it's going to take a minute. He's doing about 5, I'd say, different things at once, as well as being Dad of the Year. So, you know.
So, sorry about that. Yeah, no, there's no additional people on the no additional names, no additional
Questions
on the call. Sorry, individuals on the call.
Oh, got it. I want to thank everybody for coming. Really, really appreciate it. If you are interested in the other names, just hold on. Alex is definitely getting that done in just a minute. And we finished about 35 minutes early. So, woohoo.
All right. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I did just enter all the names of the organizations that were on today's call. Deborah, it seems we just got another question. So just confirm,
Okay.
all I have is a postcard for 990 filing and not 6 pages. That is acceptable.
Yes, it is.
All right. I guess we'll stay on for 2 more minutes in the event that anybody else has any questions. Besides that, thank you guys for joining and have a great Monday.
Alex, thank you for getting the names of the organizations in the chat box.
Oh, no worries. So yes, so just another question about where the presentation will be shared at. So if you go to Learn24, learn24.dc.gov, once you go to Learn24, you are going to go to the service providers link or tab on the far right side of the screen. And then from there, you would go to funding opportunities, in which once you go there, you will see the different grant competitions associated with the 2021 summer grant competitions, and then the of today's webinar. And for there, under there, you will see. It's not posted as of yet, but there is where you will find the slides as well as the recording is available. Thank you for joining. You guys have a great day.